Hi there, this is the Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another collection video. I thought I would do an Arrow Academy collection video rather than putting them in with all the other Arrow films that I have. So again, there's not that many of them, but I just thought I'd do a wee separate video for Arrow Academy. Arrow Academy I think is more for art house films or harder to find kind of film noirs and things like that, whereas Arrow is more cult films and horror films and things like that. So without further ado, let's start. And this is The Apartment, and this has a book of writings about Billy Wilder and about The Apartment. And this is the Bluray edition, which is very nice, and it's also a fantastic film, which also always helps. So that's The Apartment. This is Ashes and Diamonds, which is again part of Waj's War Trilogy. This is The Big Knife by Robert Aldridge, which is a nice little film about behind the scenes in Hollywood with Jack Palance and Rod Steiger and Shelley Winters. This is The Big Combo, which is a great wee film noir. Again, I'll probably do a top 20 film noirs. I don't think a top 10 is really enough. So this would probably be in the top 20, and this is The Big Combo on Arrow Academy Blu-ray. This is Bicycle Thieves, which is a great little Italian neo-realist film, as I'm sure you're all aware of. This is Broadway Danny Rose. This is Cinema Paradiso. Which again, I might be controversial, but it's not actually my favourite Tornatore film. I know this is the one that won Oscars and things like that, but it's not my favourite of his films. The next one is very special. It's the Decalogue box set by Shizlovsky, and also includes I think 4 or 5 of his documentaries, and it's just an absolutely beautiful set. There's also a book of supplements. I mean, what can you say about Decalogue? I've kind of been holding off doing a Shizlovsky top 10 just because it does mean a lot to me. I know it sounds melodramatic, but when he died 21 years ago, it was a bit of a blow, considering he'd finished arguably the greatest film trilogy of all time, The Three Colours, and then he'd announced he was retiring. But then shortly before his death, he came out with the statement that he was actually going to come back and do a Heaven, Hell and Purgatory trilogy. And sadly he died before he could film them. I think 2 of them have been filmed since, one by Agnieszka Holland, who's one of his collaborators in Poland, but I haven't watched them and I don't really want to watch them. And this is Decalogue, which, if you don't know, is his television series. So that each 10 episodes loosely based on the 10 Commandments, and each one of them's between about 55 and 58 minutes long. And there's a quote by Kubrick somewhere that pretty much says each one of them is a masterpiece, and that's not really that far off. Again, if you were ever to only watch kind of one box set of somebody, or one TV show by somebody, this would be it. It's pretty much about everything in life, and death. It's monumental is the only way to describe it. And if you haven't seen it, please try and get a copy before it inevitably goes out of print. It's just an amazing piece of work. Yeah, it's a really important work. I mean, also I'll probably talk about more depth when I do get around to doing this Shazlovsky Top 10. This is a beautiful set, and again, as it falls out, please try and get a copy before it goes out of print. La Diabolique, which again, if you watched my Criterion collection, I have this on Criterion DVD and Criterion Blu-ray, and I have it on Arrow Academy Blu-ray as well. So, as you may have guessed, it's one of my favourite films. The last scene is still, it doesn't matter if you've watched the film 100 times, the last scene still increases your heart rate. This is Force of Evil, which is another nice little noir film based on The Numbers Racket, and it just has vibrant kind of staccato dialogue. It's just wonderful. This is Hard to Be a God, which I'll be honest was a bit disappointing. It's kind of has the pace of a Tarkovsky film, but without the kind of just magical images that stick with you for the rest of your life. To be fair, I have only watched it once, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. Next one is another special one. It's Kobayashi's Human Condition trilogy, which I am ashamed to admit is still in my backlog. I still haven't got around to watching it, because as my backlog gets bigger and bigger. So this, again, is a lovely box, and it has a book with supplements in it as well. I think this version may have went out of release, but they're re-releasing a cheaper version that might just be on like a couple of discs in the slipcase rather than this lovely box. But again, I really need to watch it, and I feel quite bad that I haven't. Please leave me abusive comments down below because I haven't actually watched it yet. This is The Killing and Killer's Kiss by Stanley Kubrick, and one of these films did appear in my top 10 Kubrick films. I won't spoil it by saying which one, but you could probably guess. Love and Death, My Darling Clementine. Again, I'm going to be controversial and say my favourite John Ford film. This is an interesting set because it's a 2-disc set, and it has a theatrical version, it has a kind of pre-release version of it, and it also has documentaries, but it also has a film called Frontier Marshal with Randolph Scott, which is essentially the same story. So this set has a lot of really interesting extras. That's the cover once you take it out of the box. It's a really nice set. Again, Arrow Academy is kind of Arrow's version of Masters of Cinema or Criterion, I feel. I think it will just be a growing label that kind of keeps adding titles. And this is The Night of the Hunter, classic Charles Laughton directed film. It's a really nice print. This is another top 20 western. This is The Octopo Incident with Henry Fonda and Dana Andrews. This is a really nice little film. This is Rififi, Jules Dassin's classic gangster film. Sleeper. The Sorrow and the Pity. Again, another important film. This is Spotlight of a Murderer by Georges Franju. It is good that more and more of Franju's films are becoming available, because certainly a few years ago I only thought he had made Eyes Without a Face and Judex, but again, that's a nice little set. And it's another Jean-Louis Trintignant film. There may be a top 10 coming for him. And finally, Sweet Smell of Success, which is one of my favourite films of all time. And again, if you'd watched the Criterion video, I have that in Criterion DVD, but this is the Blu-ray. Arguably the most quotable film of all time, as in Match Me Sydney. It's probably right up there with Spinal Tap and Withnail and I as maybe the most quotable films of all time. Oh no, I've just had a terrible thought of a top 10 quotable films of all time. Oh dear. Yeah, Sweet Smell of Success. So that's just a short video. I'm sure you're probably saying it's not short enough. Just on Arrow Academy. Again, I think they'll probably add more titles. It's a kind of, as with all Arrow, they're kind of eclectic, and there's films that you haven't really heard of before, but they're usually always quality films. So thank you very much for watching that hopefully interesting video. Leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more, and please do leave comments. And we will see you again hopefully. So thank you very much for watching. This is Solid Ronan saying goodbye.